All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. For decades, there's been this deeply ingrained, almost unquestioned narrative pushed on us. We've been told time and time again that the human brain operates basically like a computer, that it's supposed to be entirely logical, perfectly structured, and, well, completely predictable. But if you've ever existed as a human being for even a single day, you know deep down that this simply isn't true. We're going to challenge that decades-old idea today. We're going to explore the fascinating intersections of physics, psychology, and artificial intelligence to uncover a much deeper, much more mysterious truth about how our minds actually work. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever just felt like a broken machine? Because the reality is, we are profoundly messy. We hold these deep, incredible contradictions inside of us. I mean, we often feel really powerful emotions long before our conscious minds can even articulate a single thought. You can walk into an entirely silent room and just instantly sense the heavy tension in the air without anyone uttering a single word. When we look at all of this messy, totally contradictory human experience, we have to stop and ask ourselves, are we just broken machines failing to run our programming? Or is it possible that the problem isn't us at all? Maybe the fundamental model we've been using to understand ourselves is just completely wrong.
You know, in the classical world, everything is completely definite. It's a 1 or 0. It's black or white. But human experience just isn't definite. Think about a really difficult decision you've had to make recently, maybe deciding whether to stay in a comfortable job or leave for the total unknown. You don't switch cleanly back and forth between one option and the other. You actually feel both states at the exact same time. You feel this crippling fear and thrilling excitement. You feel the gravity of comfort and the crazy pull of possibility, completely simultaneously. That feeling of being torn, it isn't a glitch, it isn't confusion. You are literally a system holding multiple states at once before resolving. In quantum mechanics, they call this superposition. In human experience, we just call it being torn. But the underlying structure is exactly the same.
Part 1, the double-slit reality. Let's rewind a bit to the eerily fascinating world of 19th century physics. Back in 1801, a physicist named Thomas Young shone light through two narrow slits and watched what appeared on the wall behind them. He didn't see two distinct bright lines, which is what you'd expect from tiny physical bullets of light. Instead, he saw this rippling pattern of bands, constructive and destructive interference. This proved that light behaved like a wave. But here is where things get super strange. Over a century later, scientists repeated this exact experiment, but they fired the light one single photon at a time. Amazingly, that wave-like interference pattern still appeared over time. Each solitary particle, traveling completely alone, was somehow interfering with itself. It's literally like firing a single bullet and watching it hit the target in multiple places at once. It makes absolutely no sense. But then, the scientists decided to place detectors right at the slits to observe exactly which path a single photon took. The exact moment they turned those detectors on, the pattern vanished. The mere act of measuring fundamentally changed the outcome.
And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most profound demonstrations in all of science. These particles behave like rippling waves right up until they are observed, at which point they instantly snap and behave like rigid particles. This leads us to the totally mind-bending concept of the wavicle. It's a term describing quantum entities like photons or electrons that simultaneously exhibit both wave-like and particle-like properties. They aren't purely one or the other. By just looking at them, by simply observing them, we collapse their infinite possibilities into a single reality, completely shattering the definite rules of classical physics.
Part 2, the universal observer effect.
So how does this actually apply to our daily lives? Well, imagine two people receive the exact same email from their manager. Observer A reads the message and instantly sees an exciting opportunity for growth. Observer B reads those exact same words and feels an overwhelming sting of criticism. The situation didn't change at all. The underlying text was absolutely identical. What changed was the observer. Your past, your current mood, your deeply held beliefs, they don't just act as passive filters of reality. They actively shape what reality becomes for you. Just like that quantum detector at the slit, the way you observe an event forces it to behave in a specific way in your own mind.
Furthermore, our thoughts do not exist in some isolated vacuum. They ripple and they cascade. If you ask someone a really deep question like, how's your marriage, and then immediately follow it up with, how's your life, that second answer shifts dramatically compared to if you had asked it first. Why? Because the very act of directing their attention to their marriage fundamentally reshaped the entire system of their mind. One thought ripples right into the next, altering the entire landscape. We are absolutely not static spreadsheets where you can just input data and get a perfectly fixed output. We are dynamic, fluid systems in motion.
So the crucial point is, this isn't just a poetic metaphor. This is a literal structural similarity across completely different domains of reality. In physics, observation changes the outcome. In artificial intelligence, evaluation changes the behavior of the system. And in us humans, perception changes our lived experience. Whatever we choose to measure fundamentally changes what the system becomes. Whether you're leading a team, building a product, or honestly just trying to navigate your own personal life, you have to ask yourself, what am I measuring, and how is the mere act of measuring it changing the very thing I'm trying to understand?
Part 3. AI as our mirror.
Right now, we have successfully built AI systems that mirror human language almost perfectly. They read our inputs, they reflect our exact tone, they completely validate our thoughts, and they respond with incredible clarity and confidence. Because of this, it's entirely natural that we intuitively start to relate to them as if they were actually human. But guys, there's a massive catch here. If we rely on AI specifically to avoid the messiness and friction of real, genuine human interaction, we trap ourselves in an artificial echo chamber. We end up building a reality that only ever tells us exactly what we want to hear.
We constantly try to engineer friction out of our lives because, let's face it, it's uncomfortable. But friction isn't a flaw. It is feedback. It's the exact mechanism by which any system, whether we're talking about a highly advanced artificial neural network or a complicated human relationship, learns to adapt and stabilize over time. When we use AI to strip away all that resistance, we are stripping away our own ability to learn and grow. We are literally removing the very collisions that help us define who we are.
Part 4. You are a system. Think about the words we use to describe ourselves. They frame whether we view ourselves as a fixed object or a moving system. Think about a fixed identity for a second. When you say, I am anxious, or I am a failure, you're completely collapsing your reality into a static, broken machine. But what if we shift that to a temporary state? By simply changing it to, I'm feeling anxious right now, or I'm experiencing doubt, you make this tiny linguistic shift that has absolutely massive implications. You're no longer a fixed object. You are a moving system, experiencing a temporary wave. You are, in essence, acknowledging your own superposition.
And this brings us to the absolute core truth of what we're exploring today. You are not a machine. You are not a static thing to be optimized and debugged. You are a dynamic system, constantly interpreting, constantly adapting, constantly becoming. Once you truly understand that, once you realize that you are the wave, the particle, and the observer all at once, you can finally stop fighting your messy, beautifully contradictory nature. You can stop judging yourself for not being a perfect spreadsheet, and you can start working with the incredible dynamic system that you actually are.
So I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder long after this explainer finishes. Knowing that the simple act of observation fundamentally changes the reality of whatever is being observed, what are you measuring in your own life right now? And how is that very measurement changing who you are becoming? Take a really close look at your own internal observer. You might be surprised by what you find.